Okay, this is the second in the series of best practices on the church, and we're picking up on the topic of social justice, the second in this series. My grandfather, John, and his family grew up in Germany during the Second World War. They were sort of a middle-class family, but because of the war, they had to move into an apartment complex that's sort of like the slums, which included many Germans, and they were starving, and many of the families in the apartment complex would go to the field by the apartments and pick up and go to the field and pick out the corn that was grown by the farmer and steal it. And my grandfather, named John, he and his brothers and sisters wanted to go pick up the fruit, but his father, my great-grandfather, told them not to do such evil, and he simply said that God would provide, that he would give us justice. And it was during this time my grandfather went to look for a job to get food. They were literally starving. And he went to a factory that had been owned by the Nazis, and he began to speak to the guard about what it was, and he sort of tried to speak to him in several different languages until he finally reached contact in the language of Bulgarian. My grandfather found that he needed help in the kitchen of the structure, and he had some experiences as a chef, and he worked for hours that first day making food for this despicable army that would march, making some of the most terrible destruction the world has ever known for years to come. And so after his shift in that despicable place, my grandfather grabbed his coat and began to pick up all the leftovers, the rotten and the already used, and he began to put them in his coat, and the head chef stopped him and he said, "No, John, those aren't for you. Let me give you these." And he filled my grandfather's coat with fresh fruit and vegetables. And my grandfather, John, wept. He did not expect this, and especially from this place and these types of people. After all, my grandfather hadn't asked for this. He hadn't asked to be raised in a country with a man bent on evil. And he brought the food home to his apartment and shared it with his family. And as he brought it to his father said, "Call the neighbors. Let us show them the faithfulness of God." My grandfather told me several of the people in that apartment complex came to faith, and some of their families are still serving the Lord today. And I wondered and often remarked, how could something so good come out of such a terrible place like that? If we simply take what the Lord has given and wield it for our own gain, we commit injustice. But when people understand that it is God's provision